Mauricio Pochettino on forming a team, what type of characteristics you need, good teammates, good people who put the interests of the national team over your own interest, to see the behavior of when you're playing well, when you're not playing well, we take notes. And he talked about this leading into this window, and he talked about it here. And obviously you saw Chris Richards, and Chris Richards himself said that after Pulisic's injury, after he left, and obviously, there was that sequence with James Sands where somehow a yellow card wasn't given, and I don't even think a foul was whistled on what was a pretty.
I think they just brought it back because he was on the ground for a while. I don't think it was a foul at all.
So no foul called, no yellow card given for what looked to be a pretty aggressive challenge. Then there's another moment. I actually caught this and thought it was pretty funny, where James Sands got clattered into again from behind, ends up kind of on his back, sliding away from the challenge. And as he's sliding, and there's a slow motion shot that I caught on the game, where he's kind of got his hand up in there, like what? Like again, like, you're doing this to me. And Chris Richards came back and fouled pretty aggressively immediately after that. And I'm gonna get the name right here. So D'Agostino, the forward for Australia, is the one who committed the foul on Sands in the first place, and then Chris Richards made sure to stick a foot in and let D'Agostino know, hey, you're not going to get away with that. I think it was a poorly refereed game overall. I think that was a major part of what last night was, that there was not a lot of control when it came to the way that things were happening in terms of fouls and the like. But if that's going to happen, and sometimes you're going to get that, and obviously World Cup games are going to be testy and physical, well, then give it back. Give it as good as you get it. And I think that the United States did last night.
Yeah, that was definitely good to see. And after that foul that you mentioned, Chris Richards, the replay was, as soon as he fouled, he was staring right at the referee, like daring him to give him a yellow card, because he'd just had multiple conversations about how the referee had let things go. So he was given the death stare to the referee after that challenge. And I thought it was kind of wild. Imagine if your boss said, we take notes. That's a pretty intimidating and a comment that would make you definitely feel accountable, that like all of my actions are being watched and observed. I thought that was pretty good. It wasn't like, the guys are doing great. It was like, we are judging you and taking notes on your reactions to all of this.
Well, all of this is about that accountability thing, right? All of this is about, hey, when you come into camp, this is not a vacation. This is not an opportunity to have dinner with your boys or play some golf. This is about representing your country, and that is a big deal every single time you get called in, and you should never take it for granted that you're going to get called in, whether you've been a 50 cap player or a 3 cap player. Like, there's going to be a challenge to get into this team, and we're setting a standard and we're setting an expectation. And I am a sort of rational enough person that I think sometimes that's all a bunch of nonsense, or at least it's all cover, or this talk about sort of intangible things like culture and accountability are sometimes just ways to sort of, make up for the fact that maybe you're not good enough. And again, like, coaches like to justify themselves, and sometimes you justify yourself by saying things like, well, we got to fix the culture, or we have a culture of accountability, next man up, and all this. Sports history is filled with those things. Like, Bill Belichick effectively made a career out of like using that kind of mentality element to sort of push his teams. At least that's the way people see it. Now, you have to be good in other areas, and just a mentality is not going to win you soccer games. But if you have decent talent and they are not reaching their potential, then obviously culture can be a part of how you get them to that higher level. And I don't even care. Like, I don't care what the means are. I want the ends to be good. And if Pochettino believes that this culture change that he's affecting, that he believes he's affecting, if the players buy into it, doesn't matter how tangible, how real it is. It only matters that they believe in it, which in effect makes it real. I know we're getting very philosophical here on a Wednesday morning, Rob, but that's, again, I think sometimes I roll my eyes at some of this stuff, the leadership culture, the phrase, the motto that Pochettino brought to the national team that Henry Bushnell wrote about, this thing that the CEO of Chick-fil-A told him, which is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And Pochettino bought into this and now is, spreading that gospel to the players, because of course it feeds into that idea. And when you're a national team coach, like, what I do like about this is that when you are a national team coach, you have very limited time to impact your team in meaningful soccer ways. Right? You're not a club coach drilling your guys on your system and your tactics every day. You're not able to make small or even significant tweaks between games in a week of training because you're going from Manchester United to Manchester City. That's not what this is. Right? You are dropping in every so often, in this case right now, every month, and you're getting a look, and it's a different set of guys every time you do it because that's just the way international football works. Some guys are injured, some guys are unavailable. Maybe you want to see different players. Some guys are out of form. And so, what can you carry through? What can be the connecting tissue from one camp to the next when you've got a World Cup on the horizon in America? It's culture. It's yelling about and screaming about and reinforcing this idea that we fight for each other, that there's accountability, that everybody has to show up and give everything they've got or you won't be in this team. And you definitely want to play in a World Cup because you've been dreaming about it since you were 4 years old.
With each camp that goes by, the closer and closer we get to World Cup 2026, the pinnacle of many of these players' careers, no doubt. Who will make the team and depth needed, I think, was put on good display. I think there is starting to be a core of what Poch wants, and then because he's had some random camps where he's been testing depth, see who he could start to rely on, and it seems like we're at about a corner where we're starting to see that take shape. And we mentioned earlier, Christian Pulisic had to leave in the first half. He took a knock after having limited minutes in the first game, but showing some good depth. Diego Luna came in and showed that he can play a role in these types of games.
Yeah, I thought Brendan Aronson was good late in the game as well for what he brought, the energy he brought, and he had an opportunity to set up Luna on a goal that required a good save from the Australian keeper. So there were things there. Obviously, the Pulisic situation is not great. I mean, if we're there's this game did deliver a basket of good and a basket of bad, right?
Sure
And
did, yeah.
the bad included Christian Pulisic having to leave the game half an hour in with what was reported by Pochettino after the match to be a hamstring injury. Now, I think we knew that he was carrying some sort of ankle soreness when he joined the camp. It's partly why he was limited against Ecuador. And Pochettino also talked about after the game how he didn't love the switch of locations for these games. You go from Austin, Texas, where he said, it's hot still and it's a warm weather place. And then you go to altitude where it's a lot colder. And he just said, I think that was probably bad for the players. Again, does the science back up Pochettino on that, Rob? I mean, the hot, cold thing.
I mean, moving and traveling is harder than sitting still and staying somewhere. So, I mean, science be dashed. It's less convenient. It's definitely less convenient.
There is that too. It's not a long flight from Austin to Denver, but there are elements of this that probably weren't to Pochettino's liking with the way the Federation scheduled these games. So Pulisic goes down. Now we will wait and see. Let's all hold our breath because he was in such good form with AC Milan. He's going to go back to Italy to be assessed. My guess is whether hamstrings are tricky, Rob. Hamstrings can be a month and a half, 2 months, whatever, or they can be a couple
nothing
of
or
days.
Everything. Yeah.
That you just don't know with hamstrings. So again, this isn't the ankle, this is the hamstring. And I'm actually be more worried about the hamstring than I would be about the ankle. The ankles heal. Those things can, once the swelling goes down, you're probably okay. In this case, with a hamstring, can you fire up those engines? Can you hit full speed again, which is what Pulisic game is all about. So I think there's concern for me in the short term. This is not a, hey, I'm worried about the World Cup kind of injury, right? This is only now and being in good form and just him flying that American flag when he steps on the field for Milan and helps them challenge for a Scudetto. I would also mention that Anthony Robinson was with this team and did not see the field.
No.
And that is concerning because he has barely played for Fulham so far this season. And I think there should be, and my friend Jared Dubois said it last night on the Best Soccer Show, there might need to be some concern over whether or not he's going to have a second surgery or something. I mean, you call him into the camp if he's fit and you're going to play him, or you call him into the camp to get a close-up look at whatever's going on there and to really assess what his situation is. And I think I don't want to ring any alarm bells yet. And, I'd like Max Arfsted, but he's a backup and we need Anthony Robinson on the field.
Yeah, so with that in mind, on the opposite side, was Serginho Dest in this team? Was he in this camp?
He was not. He was a healthy absence, a fit absence for Mauricio Pochettino, which might say something as well. Now, and again, we're talking about a player like Dest, who everybody sees as an incredibly talented, skilled player that most of us would put in our starting 11 if we were playing a meaningful game at the World Cup tomorrow. Pochettino didn't call him in.